Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Podnuts Pro. I am your host, Marvin B., and we are live here on Friday, August 7th. And as you can see from the logo to the left, I am going to be joined by someone from Uplevel Systems, a friend that has been on the show before. You know her, you love her, Robin Livesay, and I will get to her in just a moment. I want to remind everyone that if you want to listen to other episodes of the show, head over to podnuts.com. That's podnutz.com, and you'll find all the shows there. You'll find some other shows on the Podnuts network that you may want to listen to, Android App Addicts and some others. And just know that Podnuts Pro is a show for IT professionals, MSPs, computer repair shop owners, anybody that is looking to support business customers. We provide product reviews, we share stories, we share tips, and we try to do anything we can to help you run your business better. And that includes doing things like this today, where we talk with vendors that are giving us a help in the industry. So I am going to add in our guest. And ladies and gentlemen, Robin Livesay from Uplevel Systems is joining us. And are you on the balcony now?
I am on a balcony, trying to provide a bit of, extra color to these Zoom calls these days. So we're doing it live from the balcony in Austin.
I provide the extra color. Just
there you go. There you go. No color needed here.
Oh my. So it looks like you're what, 4 or 5 stories up?
Actually 15. So we're a bit, we're a bit over the city. If you're familiar with Austin at all, that right there is the bridge that the bats come out of. So that's kind of a fun little tidbit that you get to watch.
All right. It's a nice little view, and looks like you got some partly cloudy skies.
Yeah. We hope that those clouds might provide a bit of weather forgiveness around here these days, but I don't think that's going to happen. They just
what do you exactly mean by weather forgiveness?
Well, we're rocking 100-degree weather every day these days, so we're well into our summer months.
So I don't think you can say something to the effect of it's a dry heat, can you?
No. I mean, Austin's not nearly as humid as a Houston per se, but it's certainly not in Arizona. We get it in the 50% humidity range, so we're still well humidified here.
Okay. What's the real feel?
It's usually about a 5 to 6 degree on top of whatever the.
Really? That's not bad.
Yeah, so it'll be a 100 feels like 106 kind of situation.
Oh, well, so let me give you what it's happening here. Right now, the temperature is 88, but the real feel is 101.
Yeah. So we're not nearly as humid as as a Florida or a Houston, right? But we certainly get the heat these days.
All right. Okay. So, Robin, it's been a couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months since you were on last, and I sent back my demo unit of the appliance that I had, and we were going to talk about some of those reviews that I did.
Yeah.
That may or may not help some people. But before we get to that, I got to ask, you sent me an email a few days ago asking for a contact person over at Domots.
Correct. I did.
You didn't tell me what was going on with Domots, because I know that there are people that I guess are using Domots, and there's supposed to be some little feature that will work with the Uplevel appliance.
Yeah, so in our 4.0 release, which came out mid-July, right, we enabled SNMP agents on it, right? Okay. So all of a sudden, we are now in the contention of compatible with a Domots or an Avic, which is huge. And so I was reaching out because all of a sudden we have a lot of our partners and our customers who are now using the two of us together. So I should say we have no official partnership. We have no official ties with Domots. This is a completely unofficial plug, but we're certainly looking to enable MSPs to use those different technologies together.
All right. So I may have to do another eval with you just to see what capabilities it has, because I'm a Domos user now.
Oh, I know. So I mean, Marvin, anytime you want a gateway, you just let us know. We will ship one out to you.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we go back and just start with that? So the big, actually there's several big announcements.
Yeah.
But at the time, let me stretch that, because we were supposed to meet a couple of weeks ago and we had to postpone that. So I probably should have begun with asking you how things are going, because that's really much more important than what we're doing here. I know that there was a hospital visit by someone in the family, so I want to ask, is everything okay? Are we all good?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I had a bit of a family emergency, kind of, as they come up out of the nowhere. Everything is good now. We are getting released from the hospital today, we think. So I had a family member that all of a sudden was in the ICU out of nowhere. So we had to postpone the previous podcast. I was joking with Marvin that it wouldn't really be a good podcast if I'm sitting, in a hospital with nurses all around and beepers. It would be quite entertaining, but not exactly informative in the slightest. So everything is much better now. Thank you for asking.
All right. And since there was no mention of Rona, I assumed it was something completely different, which...
Completely.
All right.
Yeah.
Must be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good thing. So definitely not Rona. We're much better off now. But yeah, just completely out of nowhere. And I have to say, being in a hospital during Rona is an interesting situation. On non-COVID floors, it's empty, which is great.
So that's interesting, because here we're not even allowed in the hospital, period. When I had to drop off the wife to go do a couple of appointments, I couldn't go in. So you at least got to go in.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So we were in very, very rural Texas. So no major metro at all. And they had a 1 person per 24-hour rule. So it didn't matter how much you came and went. You registered, at 7 a.m. and you were the person for that day, and you were the only one that could go in and out. So that was really, really nice. The fact that we were actually able to go and sit with him and be there with him. He was there for close to a week and a half today, almost 2 weeks now. So it's a long time to be without family members. So that was really nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Glad everything is okay. I know that sometimes I just get too busy and I want to make sure that, we take care of friends and family. So
yeah. No, thank you. I mean,
all right.
Never fun.
Back to the 4.0 firmware update. So this was pretty big. Came out in the beginning of July. And what's first, the quick rundown? What did 4.0 do?
Yeah, so the biggest part of 4.0 is actually the multi-site AD enhancement. We've now expanded our previous domain controller that would work on a single site now to expand out to multiple sites. And you'll see here in the next release, which will be 4.1, an even further expansion of that. So we really are kind of playing this multi-site deployment aspect and really running with it to make those much easier, much simpler, and give companies that are now highly distributed, right, access to data wherever they are without the latency, with the audit controls, right, of a domain controller, and all that functionality that they're used to at the main site. So that's the main piece of it. Like I mentioned before, we also enabled SNMP agents, so that is also there. And then we also expanded our hardware offering to include outdoor access points and 48 port switches. So there was kind of a big chunk of stuff in there. In the release notes, you'll see there's a funny note that there are 101 other bugs. So there were a bunch of other features and little things that got added in there. Time machine functionality of the NAS is also in there. So there's a whole slew of stuff that happened in 4.0 that we released.
So let's talk quickly about the AD stuff, because if you remember, that was one of my, it really wasn't an issue. It was for old timers like me who deal with on-prem servers. We have Active Directory already enabled. Trying to work with this in an already AD environment is not going to work. So one of the things that for me what I liked about the unit, that if you didn't have a server, this would be good. If you did
Correct.
have a server, that didn't work for me. So you're out. You actually said Active Directory this time. It used to be just directory services. Was there a change?
No, there's not an official change. I mean, we're still running. It's an LDAP implementation of our own proprietary software, right?
Okay.
It is Active Directory compatible though. So it's Windows 7, Windows 10 compatible. The machine will connect to the domain controller the exact same way it would an AD server. And you're right, if you have already invested in an AD server, if you have the server on site, if you've got it all up and running, there's no reason to switch. If everything works fine, leave it. But for all the customers that don't have an AD server, that needed one, where the barrier of entry was too high, or customers that have come back to the office and found that they now have fried hardware, or are in hurricane zone, which is happening right now. Yeah, I mean, the ongoing maintenance of an AD server is real. So we're just offering an alternative to that. That is a hybrid, both on-prem, like customers are used to, but cloud controlled, so that MSPs can manage it and deploy it from anywhere.
Okay. And in terms of the multi-site, how does that work? Is that a, kind of like an AD replication between the appliances, so that if you add a device in one site, does it automatically become visible across the site, across the VPN?
Correct. Yeah. So it uses the VPN. And if you have multiple office locations, all of them communicate with one another. The domain services gets pushed to all of the devices, regardless of the location. So they're all attaching to the main domain controller or the multiple domain controllers that are there. And it allows employees to also manage the storage. So if they want to have a storage drive local to them and they do not want to have to use a VPN to access it because they have a bad internet line, they can do so, have the storage locally while still it being controlled by an offsite domain controller. So that's huge.
Now, does the data? Oh my goodness!
Sorry,
what was that?
This is me sitting outside. So there's apparently a dumpster right next to me, down 15 stories. Sorry, that should stop here in a second.
Okay, so it doesn't sound any better than the hospital. So.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess the sacrifice of a pretty view for some sound.
That's true. Got to give and take. Give and take.
Trucks rolling by.
So the question I was getting ready to ask, as it escapes my mind, in terms of the replication, so the AD replicates, but does the data storage replicate? Can you do something like DFS, where you can have the same data in multiple locations?
Yeah, so we're not doing DFS yet.
Okay.
Hint, yet. Keep an eye out. That might be coming.
All right.
Not yet, though. But yes, the AD does replicate, and then you can have the storage locally and have the domain controller manage it. Okay.
And I will get to the SNMP stuff later. We talked about the hardware enhancements that you've got. So now you've got a 48 port switch.
Correct.
With the appliance. That's nice.
Correct. Yeah. So now we have an 8, 24, and 48 port switch. All PoE.
Oh, all PoE.
Correct.
Okay. So what type of power requirements does that take now? Because that makes it a pretty hefty device.
Yeah, it does. So it's the same power requirement as the 24 port switch. It's off the top of my head, a 310 watt power budget.
All right. So that makes it full PoE to all ports. Then that even, okay, great.
Yeah. So yes, we're just expanding that in addition to the 24 port switch that we already had.
All right. Interesting. Yeah. Now I know that the firmware also added a whole bunch of stuff for remote workers, now the big WFH category. So work from home. So I thought that, the VPN was simple enough and secure enough. So what additional things would make this great for the work from home employee?
Yeah. So VPNs are great. And they've always been great. But what we've done is actually created a downgraded gateway that's actually designed specifically for work from home environments, right? So a VPN is only as good, and we all know this, as the device connected to it. And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of employees that have inadvertently given the office a much larger attack facade, right? And they have children and spouses and Lord knows who else in the house working and schooling from home. And so we're providing that downgraded gateway to provide as a local security device to protect the LAN, the corporate LAN, and segregate off that traffic so that companies now don't have to worry about if a teenager in the house logs onto a malicious website and their computer is hacked. And then that hacker starts migrating across the LAN, right? And you have an unsuspecting corporate device sitting on the LAN that is connected to a VPN. If anything happens and that corporate device is compromised in any way, that VPN is next, right? And so the hackers will then have access to the corporate network. And now we've got a serious attack issue. So providing companies with the option to have work from home security as an actual device that segregates out the LAN is huge.
Okay. So it's almost like client isolation in a sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, not just client isolation though. I mean, yes, that is a huge part of it, but also the security in front of it, because those ISP modems aren't necessarily designed with security in mind.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Let's see, what was else on the 4.0 update here? Most everything else stays the same in terms of management from the cloud and the replication and stuff. Now, you guys just announced a partnership with Acronis.
Correct.
What changes in terms of that? Because are you just now taking the Acronis cyber protection and incorporating it into the Uplevel box?
Yeah, so not just the cyber protection, most importantly, the data replication and disaster recovery piece of it.
Okay.
So up until this point, we have a NAS built into the gateway, as you know, and that can be replicated into the cloud for disaster recovery purposes and restored back down to the gateway. But what we weren't doing was sorry, my ability to speak this morning, device replication. We weren't doing disaster recovery for servers and local devices on the network. And so we've partnered with Acronis to expand that. And previously, Acronis was backing up those devices to the cloud, but there was no local copy. And so the Uplevel NAS provides a local copy of those backed up servers and workstations on the network. So in the event that a disaster occurs, you don't necessarily have to wait for the disaster recovery image to download. If you have a bad download speed, you can have a local copy on the Uplevel NAS. And then in addition to that, use the Acronis backup to then virtualize those machines. So we've just expanded our backup and disaster recovery capabilities to not only contain the firewall and the router, right, from the design of our system, but also the local devices and servers on site.
Interesting. So that's going to increase space requirements. And I know that the models, when I was looking at them last year, 1 terabyte, 5 terabyte, does that change in any way?
So it hasn't changed. We haven't come out with a larger NAS just yet. We've worked very closely with Acronis to make sure that they are highly compressed and that we are not doing any sort of excessive replication or backups of them. So this is really where the partnership came in, to make sure that it makes sense from a NAS storage utilization perspective, that we weren't doing any sort of excessive management of the images, and that there weren't any replications, and that everything was cleaned up after each image was processed and stored on the Uplevel NAS. So that's really where a lot of the engineering efforts have gone in.
So of course I got a ton of questions in terms of that, and I don't know if you can answer all of them, but how granular is that backup? Are we talking image backups and done simply daily, or can you do continuous throughout the day?
Yeah, so you can set those backup timers however you like. They are image backups. And you can, the largest thing is the cleanup after each backup, right? To make sure it's completely deleted and you have the most recent copy. And there's not a bunch of gunk that sits around afterwards that consumes much more data than what you really need.
So no versioning locally.
No versioning locally, right? The idea of disaster recovery being that if a disaster strikes, you don't want to go back 3 weeks. You need the most recent copy.
Okay. I think I cut you off there. So
no, that's okay. That's okay.
All right. So, and this is for workstations and servers?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's taking the existing Acronis model of disaster recovery of workstations and servers and imaging those to the cloud, but allowing there to be a local copy as well with the Uplevel NAS.
Okay, so based on what you guys were providing before with backing up the local stuff, is this going to be like an option, or is this built in to where this is it? Or you can choose the Uplevel backup, or you can choose the Acronis backup, or is it just baked in now all in one?
No, there's still a choice. So the previous Uplevel backup is still there. Now you have the option of or the Acronis backup as well. And keep in mind, they're really two different versions. The Acronis backup really being the endpoint server replication and imaging. And then the Uplevel backup being the critical data that's sitting on the NAS of the Uplevel gateway.
Okay. Now, the question that people are going to ask, pricing, who controls the pricing, Uplevel or Acronis?
Yeah, so that's another thing. We've really streamlined the pricing. I mean, the biggest issue with a lot of cloud, not just Acronis, a lot of cloud vendors is the pricing model. So we've simplified everything and the bill comes from Uplevel.
Okay.
So as an MSP, you don't have to worry about reconciling bills. We take care of all of that on the back end and just streamline everything for you.
All right. Now, does that mean you guys provide the support too?
We do. Well, but not just in addition to our existing support, right? We work with the Acronis support team because we have a true partnership with them. So we have a direct line to people that matter. If there is a critical issue, you really get the Uplevel standard of support in addition to the Acronis side of it. So we work hand in hand together.
Okay. Switching gears, since we talked about pricing.
Yes.
That was also one of my bugaboos, only because my customers have gotten so used to purchasing their hardware up front.
Yeah.
And they don't want anything additional in this monthly subscription. They want to pay me for my time, or, what stuff we need to do remotely. If I send a tech, they know they're going to get an extra bill, but they wanted to pay for all their hardware up front. And you guys didn't do that. But I saw today there was an announcement.
There was an announcement.
You have some pricing options now.
Yeah, correct. So you're not the only one. We've received this request in the past. And it just got to the point where we realized we needed to offer more flexibility. And especially right now, customers need as many options as they can get without it being complicated, right? They don't need the world, but they certainly need the flexibility to fit their business model and their goals moving forward. And I think you're right. A lot of customers have gotten used to purchasing equipment. And now that we're looking at companies trying to get lean, if you will, the question of how do I decrease operating expenses has certainly come up. So we have expanded our existing OpEx model to include a CapEx model. So you can either purchase the equipment or subscribe to it. Nothing has changed with our existing pricing model, but we have just expanded it to also include a purchasing option.
All right. And we're not going to talk actual prices here, but in terms of, for instance, break even, which is what a lot of my customers are like, well, how long is it going to take me to, enjoy the benefits of this being paid off? Are we talking, 36 months, 60 months that customer can see it versus the subscription model?
Yeah, so it is a dead 3-year break even,
okay.
36-month break even with the subscription model. The subscription model comes with the optional hardware upgrade at 36 months. So quite literally, you could subscribe to the equipment and effectively get 3 years, 0% financing on the equipment, and then upgrade it every 3 years if you chose to, or purchase the equipment every 3 years. It is a dead break even between the two.
Okay. And what types of support options are available if they don't want to upgrade at the 3-year mark and say they want to keep it out for 5 years? What hardware support options are available?
Yeah, so there's a license that you can obviously purchase that keeps the cloud management active for the gateway, as well as all the advanced services that are on it, any cloud services that are running, like cloud backup and all that good stuff. And that includes the support. So as long as they have an active license with the hardware purchase, they've got support.
All right, that sounds good. Any other changes in the pricing? Because I know that there was a ton of a la carte stuff.
Yeah, no, not a ton of changes in the pricing. We obviously included the 48 port switch with that 4.0 announcement, as well as the outdoor access point. So the 2 new pieces of hardware are there in the new price list. But other than that, there have been no, dramatic changes to the existing OpEx pricing model.
All right. I did make a note here. I wanted to go back. You mentioned the outdoor access points.
Yeah.
I know we're jumping all over the place.
That's okay.
So the access points that you had before, and I know, can I say that they were ingenious models?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a secret.
Okay.
We're very public about this. Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, the name's on the access point, so.
We have an agreement with Ingenious to purchase their hardware.
Okay.
They know we lobotomize it. This is very public record.
Okay. Well, the reason I say that is because are the outdoor models also ingenious, or
they
are
are
another? Okay.
Yeah. So we use Ingenious as hardware for indoor, outdoor access points and the 3 switch models.
Okay.
But they all run our own firmware. So
okay.
It's all our proprietary management firmware. We just prefer their hardware.
Okay. Now, where were we? What did we just talk about? Oh, the pricing.
The hardware option, yeah.
Yep, hardware option is good. Pricing, everything else is still good. The Acronis is now a part of it and built into Uplevel pricing.
Correct.
Right. That's all good there. And did we cover everything on the work from home deal?
Yeah, I mean, so the interesting part of work from home is just this ability for companies to stay flexible. And I think that's really our real goal over the next 6 to 12 months, is providing additional flexibility, both to MSPs, but also small businesses, right? They're just going to need a lot of flexibility, whether it be in an OpEx versus CapEx model, not having to purchase hardware up front or infrastructure up front for an office that they don't know they're going to need in 6 months, right? Offices staring leases in the face about whether or not to sign is going to be a really big question. And so this work from home model really just emphasizes the flexibility that we're offering small businesses in their IT infrastructure, which has historically been a very non-flexible model, right? You purchase equipment, you're locked in for however many years, and you hope that you use it all. And 5 years from now, you have the same needs.
Right.
And so providing flexibility with the subscriptions that they can enable or disable, providing flexibility in, moving equipment around and not requiring static IPs, and allowing it to be behind a double NAT scenario so it can be deployed to executives' home offices. That's really the big name of the game here. And work from home infrastructure is just a piece of that.
So that was a scenario I didn't think of. I was thinking of multi-site in terms of branch offices and stuff like this, but you talked about sending this to an executive's home. So is that the way that you would actually enhance the security, by being able to take the smaller appliances and sending them to an employee's home? And how easy is it for them to, for instance, I live in the land of, Comcastic internet.
Right.
And sending an appliance home to somebody's, Comcast becomes a fiasco, because they can't replace the Comcast router, and they put it behind the Comcast router and they have trouble configuring it. I assume that with the double netting, that's not an issue, right?
Not an issue. And that's really the beauty of it, right? So yes, to your point, branch offices historically have been, a satellite office where you've got another office location. But think about it. Right now, we have thousands and thousands of employees working from home that are effectively branch offices at the moment. And so we're seeing so many MSPs treat them as such, right? But as an MSP, you do not want to have to go to each individual employee's office to deploy a system, to manage a system, to troubleshoot it. which is where the cloud configuration really comes into play. And our gateway, to your point, does not have any issues connecting behind a Comcast router or a Spectrum router or, you know, any sort of the historically troubleshoot worthy ISPs, right?
Okay.
And so
that's a nice phrase. Troubleshoot worthy.
There you go. There's my PC version for the day. And so we have dozens and dozens of MSPs drop shipping these gateways directly to employee or executives' offices. And it takes 4 cables to plug it in and hook it up. And then from there, the MSP takes it, right? And they can manage everything that they need, see all the devices that are plugged in, call them and say it's plugged into port 3, not port 4, please move it over, right? They can see everything.
Right.
And so that allows them to still provide the compliance, still provide the security, everything that the corporate office needs in all of these now satellite offices called a home.
Sweet. So now let's switch that conversation back to Domotz.
Okay.
So in terms of turning on the SNMP, now I know that from the cloud, you can already see into these appliances and do all of this stuff.
Right.
So what are the questions you've been getting in terms of now that SNMP is turned on that Domotz people have been asking? Because my guess is they can use the Domotz to get into the appliance as well, but are they, what is it they're doing?
Yeah, so they're using Domotz just as an extension of Uplevel, and seeing not just what's behind the Uplevel, but what else is on the network in front of the Uplevel, right on the other side. Because we only give visibility to what's behind us, and then doing any sort of like remote troubleshooting to specific devices, right? We don't have the ability to log directly into like printers or troubleshoot, video cameras is another popular one, right? And so Domotz allows the ability to kind of branch out a bit further and get access to all of those different devices that are in the home network.
Okay, so I know in the Domotz, one of the reasons that I like them is that when they go into an appliance, and for instance, I have Sonic Wall, I can see on the interfaces, the traffic on there. I can set up some monitoring eyes and stuff like that. So have the Domotz people been asking you guys about that?
Yeah, so that's another huge piece of it, right? The traffic that's on the network and kind of what else is going on that the Uplevel isn't necessarily logging or looking for. Like I said, it's just really an expansion past the Uplevel gateway that we previously can't offer by ourselves. So
right.
that has constantly been a request of ours to start to have communications with other companies like a Domotz and an Avic. Again, I'll emphasize we don't have an official partnership with them yet.
Yet.
Anyone wants to give me a call? Robin Livesay.
All right. Well, and I will help with that any way I can, because I mean, just because I'm not using your product, I like it. Just doesn't work for me yet.
Hey, yet.
Can we say that?
There you go. There you go. I'm not done with you yet, Marvin.
All right. So that's all the stuff that I noticed. Is there any other news or updates or stuff that we need to mention?
Yeah, I mean, those are really the big ones. I think the other thing that we didn't really talk about in work from home is the internet stability aspect. We've got so many of these work from home infrastructures where you are out maybe in the sticks, as we would call it, right? And don't have the best internet access. I was out at a family's house, this past week, and the best that they can get is 5 down, 1 up. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's your basic DSL.
That's your basic DSL. There are 4 children all working from home in this house, 2 adults both working from home. All of a sudden, that gets to be a bit tight, right? Yep. And if that ISP dips at all, they are hurting. And so one of the family members is a teacher, and her big job right now is conducting online school and through these Zoom calls. And so if she goes out during a Zoom call, it's not good, right. It's not catastrophic, but it's certainly annoying. So helping to stabilize those internet connections and give companies the ability to either load balance or fail over to keep those Zoom calls and those phone calls up is huge right now, especially for executives.
So let me ask this, because that's going to be the technical question. How is the Uplevel appliance stabilizing an internet connection from a Comcast or a Spectrum? I mean, the internet's the internet.
Yeah, the internet's the internet. But number one, we can alert of any issues that are going on. So we can help troubleshoot any issues that happen, number one. But number two is we can QoS, right? So we can identify devices that need to have higher priority, right? So not the iPad of the 7-year-old who's not currently, in school, or not the iPhone of the husband who's watching Netflix at the moment, right? And prioritize the traffic so that even though the ISP is the ISP, we can still help to stabilize the actual traffic going on the LAN through to the internet.
Okay. Which was a point when I sent you, well, I don't even remember what I sent you, but I know that the QoS part was good.
Mm-hmm.
The content filtering was meh.
Yeah, and content filtering.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, anyways, go on.
So for me, it was meh. And, I mean, content filtering for most appliances really is, a few categories, keywords, and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I don't move away from SonicWall a lot is because they've got that application filtering, where it's, really grained down to not just an application, but pieces of an application. I can do certain things on Facebook and not on Facebook. Yeah. Not a knock against Uplevel, because a lot of other providers don't even do that.
Right.
So in terms of the QoS, that was a good part that I did like, because it was easy. Some appliances, it's not easy to do the QoS.
Yeah. Oh, it's super easy. That's really the name of the game with us, right? Is simplicity. Make things simple and reduce complexity where it's not needed. Yeah, the domain filtering isn't necessarily I wouldn't call it a stabilizing aspect. It's really more so a security, right? To go in and make sure that kids aren't accessing websites and whatnot that they shouldn't be, or even employees, right? But the QoS is really the big piece of it right now, to make sure that whatever phone call or Zoom call needs to stay up can.
All right. One other thing that just popped into my head that I've heard mentioned over the last few weeks, you guys have added ransomware protection, or you've been emphasizing it.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing that?
Yeah, so that has actually always been there since we initially launched the product. The ransomware protection is built into the file server that is located on the NAS. So it's only there as the NAS's ransomware protection. We're not doing endpoint ransomware protection, just to clarify. But we do, so we use a ButterFS file server, if you're familiar with it.
Yep, I am.
Yeah, there you go. And so because of that, because it's a copy on write system, anytime that a ransomware protection goes in, the first thing that it does is copy everything, and that copy actually triggers a failure. And so it immediately starts to fail the NAS, and so it's unable to actually encrypt the entire NAS at once, which is what allows us to protect against ransomware and do other things. And then obviously we have triggers that go off that notify of major changes like that. So we actually have eyes on it as well.
Right.
Yeah, but that's always been there.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember, I thought I saw it, but I hadn't heard the emphasis that I've heard recently. So I just wondered if it was new or improved.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we haven't made any dramatic changes as of recently to that file server system, though we're always making changes and minor enhancements here and there.
All right. So here's a random question for you.
Okay.
How many people call you for tech support instead of calling your tech support number?
That's a really good question that I'm not going to answer.
Okay.
I mean, look, I am here as a resource. So however I can help, great. I always tell people, if you are in an emergency, do not call me. I am not the best person to get a hold of in a pinch, because I do things like this where I am on phone calls and I cannot take phone calls. So if you're ever in a pinch, the tech support line is your best resource. But if there's ever anything that I can help with, as always, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm just an additional resource.
All right. Yes, you are all over the place. So I know that. So Uplevel Systems started in 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, so we incorporated in 2015. We launched the
Okay.
product in 2017. So depending on kind of what angle you're looking at, the product's now been in the market for 3 years.
All right. How do you guys feel about where you are?
Yeah, I have to say we have grown so much, especially in the past year. So we're very excited about kind of things to come, the partnerships that we have working at the moment, the new feature set that we have coming, and certainly this work from home infrastructure that we've seen pick up. So we're very excited about where we are.
Speaking of partnerships, what's up with the Freedom Voice partnership?
Yeah, we're still a Freedom Voice partner. We haven't done any marketing with them as of late, but they are still very much so a partner of ours. And we work with them, on occasion, especially in troubleshooting all of our existing partners that are using both of us together. So there's certainly a huge support aspect between the two companies there.
So let's go back, because what was that partnership in reality? Because it's easy to understand the Acronis partnership. The backup is built into your appliance.
Right.
But with Freedom Voice, it's like, okay, phones, firewall, where's the partnership and what does it do?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was the fact that we worked with their engineering team to certify that we would not drop calls in the event of a failover.
Okay.
So we specifically partnered with, we wanted to pick, one or two and partner with them to actually ensure that we would qualify traffic. Now, each phone provider does, their transitions and how they manage phone calls a bit differently. So that's why we specifically chose Freedom Voice and went with them.
Okay. So if I were to bring back an appliance and start plugging my Freedom Voice phone in, is there any, I'm assuming there's a, certain set of features that I've got to turn on, turn off, QoS, stuff like that? Or is it just boom, ready to go?
Boom, ready to go. So anytime that you have a Freedom Voice phone plugged in and there's a failover on the network, so whether or not you're QoSing that phone or not, we will actually ensure that the phone call does not drop. There will be about, a few second glitch where you miss audio, the detection of the failover, but the phone call will actually remain up, which is huge. You don't have to redial.
All right. All right. So for those of you having doubts about Freedom Voice, there is a reason to stay or partner with Uplevel as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's certainly a big value add in us, being able to qualify that traffic and ensure quality in the event of a failover.
All right. Another random question. Mm-hmm. Can you throw a water balloon at that kid
from where you are? Goodness. Sorry about that.
Yes, I can.
No more podcasts from the balcony. Duly noted.
And what would make you think that I should be the one you would do that for?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was just kind of hey, I've done so many from, the guest bedroom office situation that we might as well mix it up. So, not anymore. This will be the last.
Trying to show off that Texas weather, thinking you can outdo Florida.
Yeah, what you're missing is the heat aspect, right? That's what doesn't come off in a video.
No, it sure does not.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So how's anything else? How's life? I know I asked you about the hospital thing, but how's life in general?
Yeah, I mean, life is good, as good as lockdown can get. We're in a bit of a roller coaster here in Texas, so we're just kind of doing what we can and trying to stay as safe as possible. But
you're not as bad as we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got curfew lifted. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. It's just a bit of a roller coaster, and people ask me what the new rules and regulations are today, and I just can't keep up with it anymore. So we're staying home as much as possible and trying to do what we can. Uplevel as a company has been distributed from day one, so we're kind of all over the place. Our headquarters are over in Portland, so nothing has changed there at all.
All right.
So partners don't have to worry about any interruption in support or our normal kind of cadence. Nothing's changed.
Right. Do you have to wear a mask when you walk the dog?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes. All the walking everywhere. It's essentially if you're out of your house, so you have to wear a mask.
All right, we're going to go off track here, but I got to ask.
Yeah.
Because you're 15 stories up. You got the dog.
Uh-huh.
So when the dog wants to go out, that's 15 floors you got to wait.
You got it. Yeah.
How long did it take for the dog to get accustomed to that?
You know, we got her when she was a puppy. And so it was really easy for her to get. I mean, she wasn't used to a yard. I have to say, when we go out to the country and she has a yard, it is a huge relief of mine, because you basically have to plan your day around, 3 or 4 walks up and down 15 stories. So it's I don't necessarily recommend it for anyone, but I'm lucky in a sense that there's a huge dog park right here, and so it makes that easy.
All right. Now, is the dog active? Because I know while it was laying on the bed there asleep, I can't tell if it's an active dog. Like if you have to go walk it, you're walking for half an hour because it's got to run around and do stuff.
Oh, she is. So she's a golden doodle. So she's got the poodle energy.
Okay.
And the retriever ambition, if you will. So yeah, so we do, you can see the lake here, and we have a good trail that wraps around the lake. So we do a good few miles every day. Otherwise,
or walking or running?
Both.
You're a runner?
Yes. When it's not 100 degrees outside, I am.
Okay.
I'm a runner for about 7 months out of the year.
All right.
Yeah, but we've got a good trail in Austin here, and so that makes that a bit easier. But yes, it's certainly a personal toll, if you will, to have a dog this high up in a condo. So
I just had to ask, because I've got people here that I know with pets, but they're only 1 or 2 stories up. So
right.
I just, for some reason, 15 stories just, I don't want to say seemed ridiculous, but
it is. It is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, the good news is when you get into high-rise condos, the elevators are fast. So it's not, maybe like a hospital speed elevator where it takes 2 minutes to go a floor. But it's certainly a toll. It's much different than opening a door.
Right. And obviously your building is pet friendly. So I can't believe I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to ask that question.
Okay.
You've done pretty good with answering the personal questions. So.
Maybe ask me after, because now I'm curious.
Okay. All right. So I think that's it. I already asked you if there was anything else, and we hit that. So I want to thank you for coming on the show and spending your lunch. Well, it's not your lunchtime. It's my lunchtime.
Yeah, there you go.
Spending lunch with those of us that are watching. And obviously, anytime there's a change that we'd like to have you back on. At some point, I would like to do another appliance demo. Like I said, I do have 2 customers that after Rona will either be moving or opening up new space. And that would be a time that I can look at, deploying something new for them. So I'll let you know when that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get you another system just for you to test out and play around with and see what you think, especially if you wanted to do a Domotes test with both of us. That would be good.
We could do that. That would be great, because a lot of my listeners are liking the fact that we're doing the live demos now. So anytime we can do something on air and show them how we're using it, we would definitely do that.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic. And thank you for having us. I mean, we're always thrilled to talk to you, Marvin. So it's always a blast.
Beautiful. All right, folks, you have just listened to Robin Livesay as we talked about Uplevel Systems, their new firmware update, their partnership with Acronis. And we didn't get the dog's name. What's the dog's name?
Her name is Stella.
Stella.
As in a streetcar named Desire. You guessed it.
All I can think of is Elaine from Seinfeld.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. There's the reference. So, yep.
All right.
She is.
So Robin and Stella joined us today, as well as the...
Anyways, there's the dog.
I mentioned the name, and she has to come and insert herself in the show.
There you go.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for listening to the show. If you watched here on either YouTube or the Facebook, join us again for another episode coming next week. If you're listening to us on audio, be sure to check the show notes. If you want to see the video, I'll have the links to both places there. And we'll also have links to Uplevel and contact information that will not be Robin's name or email address or phone number. So you can contact Uplevel support instead of her. And that is going to do it. We thank you again. And until next time, holla.
Thank you.